Hello and welcome. You're listening to 103.2 Dublin City FM. My name is Doug Gordon. I'm the host of the show, Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, where the aim of the show is to interview inspiring people who have either been successful in their field or inspired others to success in some form. Today's guest is Marie Cosgrove. Marie is an award-winning international speaker, an author, a business consultant, entrepreneur, and a certified coach. As a single mom of four who bought the company that fired her, Marie brings unique perspectives gained from her experiences to your organization, empowering you to unleash the untapped potential of your employees. Marie has been featured all over American TV, radio, the press, and is the author of the book, Greater Fortune, the entrepreneur who bought back the company that fired her. I first saw Marie speak at the Global Women's Summit in London and was blown away by her amazing story. She really is a true inspiration and a pleasure to have on the show. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here with you, Doug.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I absolutely loved your story when we met and you were on stage over at the Global Women's Summit. And it was just inspirational and fascinating to hear about the turnaround that you had and everything that happened to you. I'd love you to explain the audience of what happened in terms of buying back the own company that's fired you.
So, I was in sales. I was a single mom with 4 kids, and it took me a long time to get this position and to convince them to give me an opportunity. And I finally convinced the owners of the company that if I paid my way through training and I did well, and I passed everything, then they would give me an opportunity for a position in the company. And at this time, I was desperate because I was a single mom, 4 kids. Dad lost parental rights due to domestic violence. And I had just left a corporate job. I knew I couldn't go back to corporate. And I was very successful there. I was managing a $600 million marketing budget. And it was a Fortune 100 company. But with 4 kids and having to take care of the medical needs, I knew I couldn't do that. I needed something where I can create my own schedule. So finally, they gave me an opportunity, and I realized that what their perspective was about me, because I passed all of the tests. I did very, very well. But I remember during training, the owner said, some of you did very well, but you're still not cut out to make it in this industry. It was in the healthcare industry, because this is a man's world. And I looked and I turned throughout the room and I saw that I was the only female, the only minority. So I'm like, this guy is talking to me. And when he passed by me, I said, "You're talking to me, aren't you?" And he says, "Of course I'm talking to you. You're not going to make it. Why don't you just go home, little girl? Why don't you just go sell candy? That's probably the most you'll ever be able to sell in this world, because it's a man's world." And I said, "Why don't you just give me an opportunity? Straight commission. You have nothing to lose. And if I don't do well and I don't meet my quota, then you tear up the contract. But if I meet my quota during the first 30 days, then I've got a job." And he just laughed, and he didn't think I could do it, because he said that his VP of marketing and sales came back and said, "Look, are you willing to take the doctors out to strip clubs? Are you willing to go fishing and hunting with them? Because that's what it takes." And I knew I didn't have to do that. I knew that I could, I told him, I said, if I could sell a group of people how to spend their $600 million on marketing and how to spend that budget, I can definitely sell your equipment. And so that's how I looked at it. I was comparing my past success to that. And they said, "Leah, you don't have experience in sales. It's not the same thing. Marketing and sales are 2 different things," which they are. But I had this belief that I could do it, because I looked at it as sales is sales. It's, whether you're trying to convince, it's influence, or you're trying to influence someone to do something that's going to help them. And what I loved, what they didn't understand though, is that I had this passion for the healthcare industry, because I am a product of rape, born to a mentally disabled single mom. My mom was in a car accident that left her permanently disabled. She had permanent brain damage. And the treatment of care that they provided for her was pharmacological treatment that caused schizophrenia and also electric shock therapy. And I knew that that was not the right therapy for her. And I knew if I could make a difference by providing clinicians with the right diagnostic tools, with the right treatment, they could help their patients and they could provide better patient care. So they didn't see the passion that I had. They didn't realize, where I was coming from, and that's okay. But they didn't see how I was going to be able to make a difference. And within the first 30 days, I not only didn't only meet my quota, I exceeded my quota for that month and the next month as well. So then I was in.
That's amazing. And then you continued doing this and you started earning so much that they then tried to take your commission away, if I remember correctly, and put you on
Yes.
a salary that lowered your overall income massively. Is that correct?
That's true. I was doing very well. And one day I had just closed two major universities and major hospitals. And I get a call from one of the executives, and he says, I want to meet with you. And I had never met this one in person because it's, our larger company. And sometimes you don't get to meet the people at the very, very top. So I was excited. I thought, wow, this guy from the very top of the company is flying in to meet with me and take me to dinner. This is exciting. I'm going to get and I was bragging on my friends, I'm going to get a promotion. Guess who's coming to meet me for dinner? And I'm just like all excited. And then we go to dinner and he's telling me, you've done such a great job. We're so proud of you. We want you to be a permanent part of the team. I was excited. And then I get a sheet of paper and I open it, and just, I was so sad because it said that he was offering me a salary of $150,000 a year. And that may sound good and decent, but not when you're making that kind of money on a monthly basis on commission. And what he didn't know was that I have 4 kids. I'm a single mom. When you have $10,000 worth of medical bills to take care of your kids, you travel across the country with a nanny, you do your own marketing, you provide all your expenses. That's just enough. And, no child support, no one to fall back on, because I didn't come from a family of wealth. I came into the world through adversity. And, I was just devastated because I knew on $150,000 a year, there's no way that I could have a nanny full time to help me with my kids. I knew I couldn't take care of their medical needs. And I knew I couldn't do my job the way I needed to do it to be successful. So I said, I'm not going to accept this. I would just continue with the financial arrangements that I'm on now. And they said, no, you don't understand. You have to take this. If you don't, you can't work for us. This is it. You don't have any other option. You take this, or we're having to let you go from the company. And in fact, if you don't accept this offer, you can't continue. You can't go to the training this afternoon. And I had to, I was devastated because I'd probably go bankrupt if I accepted that offer. I just couldn't. It would take me so far back financially. So I said no, and they said, then we're letting you go.
Jeez, that's terrible. And so obviously, that's history now, because obviously we know the ends of the story. But where did you go from there?
So I was devastated. I felt like someone had just stabbed me in the gut and just like turned that knife slowly. That's how hurt I was. But I remembered my grandfather's words. He says, vengeance is not ours. It's the Lord's. It's God. Vengeance is, you leave it to God. And forgiveness. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you don't feel pain. It doesn't mean you have to, have those people in your life. But I didn't know what to do at that time. And I reached out to a client I had made in the industry. Dear friend. He's like a second dad. His wife's like a second mom to me. And I said, I'm so miserable. I said, I don't know what to do. I lost my job. How am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to provide for their healthcare? And I'm crying in his office. And he's like, Marie, this is the best day of your life. And I didn't realize at the time that when there's adversity, we tend to shut down like I had, and we don't look at the opportunities. We don't look at the possibilities. And I was so blessed to have him as a friend. And we all have people around us that we can tap to, that we can turn to. And sometimes in our pride, when something bad happens, we tend to internalize that and not reach out to others. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with reaching out with to a friend, or a counselor, or an expert who's gone through what you've gone through. So anyways, I reached out to him and he says, it's the best day. And I said, what do you mean, Dr. Martin, the best day? Like, don't you realize, how am I going to continue paying the nanny to help me? How am I going to continue to pay my kids' healthcare needs? And he says, no, you start your own company. And I'm like, how do I start a company? I don't know anything about starting a company. He goes, Marie, you basically do have a company. You have people working under you. You're a distributor. And I didn't look at that because I was selling one product line. And I thought, oh, yeah. And then the wheel started turning. And I said, well, what about creating a new product? And then he's like, okay, you're taking it a little bit too far. And so what I did is I asked him and a bunch of doctors, what devices would they like to have that didn't exist in the marketplace? And so I developed a product. I collaborated. I really believe in the power of collaboration with the right people. I have a chapter in my book where it says learning to walk away, when to walk away. Because there's sometimes when people come into your life to help you make a lot of money. And there's people that come into your life that cause you to lose a lot of money. And so we need to be aware of how to identify these types of people. So I brought in an amazing group of people and we developed a product. I got FDA clearance and I built that business to a $14 million business. And so, of course, the people that fired me contacted me and they said, you're doing very well. Would you be interested in investing in the company? Now, had I been bitter, had I been angry, had I sued like everybody suggested that I do, they would have never called me. So I contacted my accountant and I said, hey, can you do evaluation and see if this is a viable company, if it would be worth investing into. So we flew to the headquarters, and which was in another state, and he looked at all the numbers and I looked at the numbers for certain years and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And he says, no, you don't understand. You did the majority of the sales during this time period. I'm like, what? I don't want to invest. I want to buy the company. So after 6 months of negotiations, I bought the company that fired me.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And serves them right as well. And, obviously what I love about it as well is, you obviously have created amazing trust and great salesmanship, communications, relationships with the clients that you were with, that they had that trust in you and backed you and wanted to go with you again. I know there's a lot of people out there in terms of entrepreneurs, business people and everything like that. Would love to know just a few tips in terms of your saleswomanship, in terms of what you think your unique selling points were, in terms of your skills of communication to create that connection and create that success.
I believe that it's always going back to you, who you are. In sales training programs, I do a lot of sales consulting and coaching as well, because everybody looked at me and they said, she doesn't fit the profile of an executive, especially in capital equipment, which is a lot of people try to get into medical device, capital equipment sales because it's very prestigious. It's very lucrative. Most salespeople make a minimum of $1 million a year in that industry. And so they didn't see my skill sets. And what I say, I have this exercise on a sheet of paper, jot down, what skills do you have? What are you good at? Because God's gifted you. And even if you're not a believer in God, maybe you that's not your belief system. We know scientifically that we're all unique. I mean, everybody has a unique fingerprint. Everybody has a unique voice box. So you're gifted with a unique gift set. And those skills that you're gifted with, you can use that to propel you towards success. So if it's in sales, for example, they said, that I didn't have the skill set to be able to influence doctors because I am very unassuming. When people meet me, in fact, before I'm going to go on stage, even in London, when you saw me, Doug, I had women because I'm very quiet. I sit and I just observe, and I like to get to learn about people, and I learn about people by listening. So when they call my name, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna pray for you. You can do this." Because I don't look like I've ever spoken on stage before, and so then once I get on stage, they're like, "Oh, can you come speak at my event?" And so I got all these speaking and invites. So it was the same thing with sales. I have a very unassuming demeanor, but I use that as my advantage because when I speak to doctors, they don't see me coming. And most people go in with, I am so and so, and I've got, and so the doctors automatically put up a wall because, oh, this person's coming in to sell me. So they have to schmooze them and take them out to dinner and hunting and fishing. I didn't have to do any of that because there was no wall. And I just listened. So I would listen. And I think that's a key skill is listening instead of telling them, you need this and this is going to help your patients. I listened to what their pain points were. And they would tell me, oh, well, these patients, I just send them out because I don't know what to do with them. And so I would ask them, well, how would you like to have a solution where you can diagnose your patient and treat them in your office? They're like, oh, that'd be amazing. Tell me more. And so there was no wall. And so whatever your skill set, it doesn't have to be mine or yours. Everybody sells differently. It's identifying what your skill set is. You don't have to duplicate somebody else. You can be who you are. And I believe that that's going to lead to more sales is being authentic with who you are. And then identifying how you can help that person. And if you can't help them, then you walk away. Too many salespeople want to force their product or their service on someone that's not going to benefit them. And your product and service, be honest about it. It doesn't benefit everybody. It's not for everybody. There are going to be people that it's going to benefit. And that's what I did. I would focus on, if the doctor said, I have bad credit and I'm barely making it. You can't squeeze water out of an empty water bottle. So I just okay, this client is not for me. So I would walk away where other salespeople keep hounding and hounding and hounding. I'm not going to accept the no. You need to learn when to walk away and step back.
I love that. And it's so true. And, I love the fact that you said you're so unassuming as well, because it's all about asking the right questions rather than making assumptions so that you can match the client's needs to your USPs, which is obviously what you did through active listening and creating that trust and connection with them, which you've done beautifully, because otherwise you wouldn't be as successful as you have. And I'd love to know, obviously, you've just now obviously got a book, which, well, it's not new now, it's a few years old, but tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote in terms of the greater fortune. And I know you've obviously covered quite a lot of the points already, but just a few added extra tips and tricks that might be in there that you haven't already discussed.
Sure. So Greater Fortune, Essential Lessons from the Entrepreneur Who Bought the Company That Fired Her was launched actually later last year. And we're launching the soft cover. That was a hardcover, the soft cover in the fall, along with the Kindle version, because we have the Audible version, which is really good by an actress, Joanna Garcia. She did such a great job on the Audible version. And the reason, in case you're wondering why I didn't do my own, is because my publisher said that my accent was too thick and they may not, yeah, actually, yeah. So that's why I'm doing the softcover version on my own. But anyway, there are some great tips in there from dealing with, how do you go from adversity, and it can be in relationships, it can be in your business life. How are you able to take that adversity and push forward and turn obstacles into opportunities? So in there, I take you step by step exactly how to do that for yourself. And it can, I don't know. For me, my adversity, I felt overwhelmed in my younger days because I didn't have self confidence. And I realized that I was putting value on who I was based on what happened to me. So, in other words, growing up with a mother who's schizophrenic, I went through all kinds of abuse, physical, emotional, you name it. I went through that. And it was no fault of her own because she had schizophrenia. But at the time growing up, I didn't know that. So I developed a very low self-esteem. And that's how I ended up in a domestic violence situation. So I had to learn that my value didn't come from becoming a successful business owner, becoming a millionaire, or what happened to me. That's not where my value came from. And a lot of times we tie value to either success or failure. And that's not where our value comes from. Because a lot of people, I'm facilitating a workshop right now with high income earners. These are business owners that I, the business owner that earns the least in this group, he said his business is at 10 million. Mm-hmm. Everybody else earns way more than 10 million. So this is a group I'm facilitating. And I'm telling you, at this level, they're afraid that if they didn't have a successful business, they'd be nobody. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And so their value comes from their wealth. And I'm here to share with you that your value doesn't come from your wealth or from your poverty. You can absolutely feel content and feel at peace regardless of your situation. Whether you're facing challenges, whether you're facing financial hardship, or you're doing excellent in your finances, or, because a lot of times in this world, we're always trying to strive for perfection, and you're not going to reach perfection. What I say is reach for excellence. Because if you take a look at your iPhone, how many times do you have to update your phone? Whether it's too many times. If it was perfect, we would not have a phone. We would not have cell phones. We would not be on this Zoom call if everything was perfect. And so many times we wait for perfection. So don't wait for perfection, wait for excellence. And I share a lot of tips in my book that you can listen to Audible. You can get it on Amazon. If you don't like to read, listen to the Audible. If you like to read, get the hardcover. And right now it's at like 45% off. And 100% of the proceeds go to fight domestic human trafficking and domestic violence. We have a nonprofit organization that we support, founded by a dear friend of mine. It's called lovemissions.net. You can even donate directly to her. But she has safe houses all over the world. And they take these victims of human trafficking and they help rebuild their lives, everything from A to Z, from education to entrepreneurship training, you name it, they're taken care of. And so I'm very passionate about that because of my past. So 100% of the proceeds of the book go there. And so there's a lot of tips in there, but you have value, you have purpose, regardless of your circumstances, where you are now. If it was all taken away from you, you'd still be a person of value. If you have nothing, you still have purpose in this world and you have value and you matter.
I love that. And Marie, there's so many gems there that you came up with. And it's very interesting to see that quite often we attract similar partners to our parents until we heal what's within in terms of suppressed emotions. And also, I love the fact that you basically said that we're all perfectly imperfect and seek excellence rather than perfection. I absolutely love that. And also, to watch that ego as well, which is edging God out. And connect with your heart self instead of your head self. And actually, the other thing I love what you said as well was, basically you said what I said when I spoke at the Global Women's Summit is that when you get to that age of 94 years of age or whatever it is, you're not going to look back at how much money you've made. You're going to look back really about how many hearts you've touched. And that comes down to kisses, hugs, and kind words. So go out and give as many of those and you'll live a very content life. So I love all that. We've got about a minute and a half left. And just tell people, firstly, a little bit about what you talk about when you're on stage. So the people who are listening, who want to bring you in, know a little bit about it. And then finally, just tell me how people can get in touch with you as well.
Sure. mariecosgrove.com is my website. And you can follow me on social media at Resilient Expert. I speak on resilience, the resilient leader, on resilient entrepreneurship. I speak also to students as well, very passionate about it. So I speak about the resilient student and resilient roots. I do a faith-based talk for churches and organizations of faith. So those are the main topics I speak about: leadership, sales, entrepreneurship, business, and faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody does want a super speaker, you have to get in touch with Marie. I saw Marie, as I said, at the Global Women's Summit, which is part of the Global Women's Magazine, which is truly global and run by someone else who's on the radio show as well, Maria Sulla. And I think you won an award, didn't you, while you were there?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, so an
Yes.
award-winning international speaker and entrepreneur as well. And having spoken on stage with some of the best speakers in the world, I was sitting in the audience and I was watching Marie, and like she says, I didn't actually know anything about her, and I thought she looked so unassuming. But when she got up on that stage and delivered her speech, I was absolutely, in fact, I was crying because it was so emotional, so moving to see someone who came from where you came from in terms of your mum to the inspiration that you are today. So I have to say, anyone listening, get in touch, because Marie is an absolute legend. Marie, it's been an absolute pleasure having the show. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I wish you every success going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.